Hey everybody, today we're debating flat earth versus globe earth, and we are starting right now with...
Yeah, I don't have anything prepared, but I'll address everything that they just said. So, first thing that I thought stood out was the claim that gravity is like the most well-known, proven idea ever, and it's a nail in the coffin, etc. And it's never made a prediction that was inaccurate. That's just patently false, of course. On the cosmological scale, relativity's predictions are drastically wrong, like to an egregious degree. For example, as early as the 30s, applying relativity to the sky, we saw that the galaxy distribution of mass was off by 97%, that the galaxies only had 3% of the mass needed based on what relativity predicted. The expansion rate is far too fast and needs more energy. You have constructs called dark matter and dark energy, undefined. They're called dark because they don't interact with the electromagnetic spectrum, and we don't really know what they are, and then we assume that they're material. There's a difference in how much people think they're off 10 to the 120th power. Some argue about that. Anyway, long story short, relativity on the cosmological scale literally did make predictions that were wrong, drastically wrong, not even in the ballpark of being correct. It's been known for a long time. And in addition, it's also completely inaccurate on the quantum scale. Everything that gravity's claimed on the quantum scale has been thoroughly debunked. For example, superposition just destroys the idea of the distribution of mass, creating equidistant curvature of space and time. And there are many different other examples. So it doesn't work on quantum scale. The localization of gravity, being Newtonian gravity, which is 9.8 meters per second squared, little g, is of course downward acceleration. It's agreed upon average in which things fall. Amy mentioned that somebody was dropping balls from a tower and they were dropping at the same rate. Well, it's an agreed upon average. Things don't actually always drop at exactly 9.8 meters per second squared. It's just an average and it fluctuates. And it doesn't really matter. Once something goes down, it goes down at a regularly similar rates. And that's Newtonian gravity. So long story short, that's not in any way what is claimed anymore. And I can quote to you Walter Lewin from MIT, explaining to you that every phenomenon we see on the Earth, everything that we experience, everything that's held together on the Earth is all because of electricity and the electric nature of all things, and that it's 10 to the 36th power stronger than gravity even claims to be. So there is no evidence on the Earth at all that's exclusive to the idea of gravity, and that's ironically the only place that the math for gravity even works. And so obviously what we're being told from this other side is drastically misrepresenting what the truth is. There is no evidence at all for gravity. That's just one example. You can beg the question, reify it, but the truth is everyone knows that the modern version of relativity is best case scenario, drastically incomplete, and has to be updated and does not account for any of the phenomena observed on the cosmological or quantum scales. So there's the first thing. Secondly, he said something to the effect of long-distance measurements have to account for the curvature of the Earth. Well, what actually happens is we take plane surveying data, right, where we assume a flat Earth. We get a vertical line that we drop horizontal or perpendicular to the horizontal plane to get our level, and then we make measurements in small increments, and then we stitch those together over long distances. And then there's something called geodetic surveying, and what they do is they take the stitched together data from the plane survey data, right, and then they look out over distances, take azimuth readings and different things like this, and they go into the observations with a predetermined window, meaning anything that they see that falls outside of it, they just throw it out. I actually debated main surveyor on here. He's a geodetic surveyor. He openly admits this. So they throw out every single observation that doesn't fit within their presupposed little window. He actually explains that if he hadn't done that, he would have got a radius value way too big consistently. He has to throw them out. So this is basically cooking the books, or Texas sharpshooting fallacy, right? Where you just kind of like the idea that they shoot the gun and then they go draw the circle after they shoot the gun. They throw out all the data that doesn't work within their presupposition. They then take a weighted mean average within that predetermined window, and they try to get within 90% accuracy of the NDSA model or the presupposition of the globe. So if we actually look at the evidence, it doesn't work at all with the radius. So that's what's ironic. And the whole fundamental part here where she's saying basically the idea is that we have the burden of proof because we're challenging it or whatever. Well, she actually alluded to it, right? So all empirical evidence actually shows us that the Earth is a stationary topographical plane and that it's geocentric. That's what all evidence ever shows us. So that's our default position. Okay, I mean, based on all evidence. He brought up planes. Planes assume a flat, stationary Earth. I just talked to pilots the other day. I have them on video admitting, yeah, you have to fly the plane like it's flat and stationary. Their navigation routes are called great circle routes. You can have circles on a flat Earth also. I didn't know if you guys knew that, but bringing up the fact that they fly with circle routes is literally irrelevant to the Earth being a globe. So all evidence, actually ballistic missiles, I have like probably over 50 documents right here on my computer that the military constantly assumes the Earth is flat and stationary. to do anything. Long distance ballistic missiles, electromagnetic propagation over a flat Earth for ground weapon systems, all fighter jets, helicopters, you name it. It all assumes a stationary topographical plane. They assume a dielectric plane for electromagnetic propagation, etc. And so all the evidence shows us this. All of our actual measurements, as we just covered, the physical measurements that we have, they're actually using plane survey data that we stitch together and assume a globe and have to throw out a bunch of stuff. So everything shows us that the Earth is flat. All empirical evidence shows us it's a topographical plane, right? And that it's stationary. And if it's stationary, that means it's what's called geocentric, and meaning that the Earth is the center. Now, this is what the default position is. This is all empirical evidence ever. They say we've known for thousands of years. This isn't true either. Even if you believe the story of Eratosthenes without primary documentation, he was just a minority in the world at the time anyway. And like they said, they thought it was geocentric. So long story short, yeah, you have the burden of proof if you think the Earth's a globe. I do not care if you want to misrepresent it and say that everyone in the world must be in on a lie. No one thinks that. Everyone believes the lie. Everyone believes the lie. They were all told the lie when we were like 5 as well. They don't think they're lying. There's not some like concerted conspiracy with 7 billion people working behind the scenes to trick us or something. They all believe the lie. The teachers believe the lie. The NASA employees believe the lie. People just believe the lie. Okay? And so that's a misrepresentation of what we're actually saying. And the truth is, again, you would need empirical evidence. So I'll try and wrap it up pointing this out. You need to provide physical empirical evidence that the Earth is, in fact, a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles, and that is tilted on a 66.6 degree axis, wobbling, spinning at 1,037 miles per hour east, going around the sun 66,600 miles per hour in a vacuum. This is a positive claim. And you claim that the universe is expanding in all directions infinitely, and we can't really tell, and it looks like we're the center with even distribution, but I think that means that it's probably going to look like that everywhere else, right? And you come up with all these frantic ideas of how to keep your story together theoretically. We need actual physical empirical evidence. And when we went and looked for it, which is why the government and they censor this egregiously, is because you can't find it. And we actually falsified the radius, where she said that the boats go over the curve of the Earth. They actually do not, right? We see the horizon far too far for the geometric limitations of the globe Earth. And what that means is that the horizon is not a physical geometric location that tangibly blocks anything. It's an apparent location that fluctuates. We have observations that are 10, 15, 20 times too far, requiring the radius to be over 250,000 miles. So no, boats don't disappear over the curvature of the Earth, right? Eratosthenes, he assumed a distant sun, assumed parallel rays, and then used spherical geometry to beg the question. That also doesn't prove that the Earth's a ball, right? And there's no primary documentation that guide you to any of that. So long story short, yes, we do want the physical empirical evidence. We know that NASA was founded with Nazis and has consistently lied ever since. We've caught them lying many times. And so, no, we don't blindly believe the government, nor do we think that NASA is the one federal government agency that doesn't lie. So long story short, we measure the surface of the Earth. It's not curving. And if the radius value is not 3959, and that's been falsified, the entire model is wrong because every single aspect of the model requires that. And I'll also let you know ahead of time, there is no motion ever been proven that the Earth is spinning. There's no evidence for it whatsoever. And even Einstein himself will tell you that centrifugal and Coriolis effects would happen if the sky is moving around the Earth, in a letter he wrote to Ernst Mach, and there's no physical empirical evidence that the Earth is spinning or curving. And so, yeah, that's why we're here. And you make claims that are violative of natural law. So we want empirical physical evidence, and then we'll just tear it apart if you think you've got it. And I just keep saying I'm going to wrap it up, but I want to really suck this in for the audience. We used to think the Earth was a globe too, bro. Okay, so this like arrogant, condescending tone that people come into the conversation with, acting as if we're ignorant and incompetent and inept, is very disingenuous. We all knew that the Earth was a globe too at one point. At least we thought we did. We all know your position. The truth is most flat earthers have studied it way more in depth than the people that mock and ridicule people. Okay, so we learned the story, and that's why we know it's not true, because there's no evidence for it. So, yeah, there you go. That's my opener.